Husband refused parental responsibility for our newborn and ran to his mother when I confronted him, leaving our daughter neglected. I'm 23F, my husband is 28 male. We've been married for 4 years, together for 5. We met when I was 17 but didn't officially start dating until I was 18. My husband has done a lot for me, paid for entire semesters of college when my parents refused to complete a FAFSA, encouraged me to take out loans when we couldn't afford to pay for my tuition entirely, moved me away from abusive/toxic family members, but I'm really struggling with this. I had a baby 9 weeks ago. It was a rough birth. I was laid off from a really awesome job working in an office as a customer service rep due to budget cuts while pregnant. My husband swore he'd take care of us, we'd be able to survive off one income, etc. all that bullshit. I went through what little savings I had with a quickness because even though he talked a big game of taking care of us all, he still insisted I pay my share of the bills. I'm still in unemployment appeal hell. I was applying to jobs left and right up until I was 38 weeks pregnant and realized no one was gonna hire me so close to giving birth. I have a bachelor's degree and literally ended up getting a waitressing job at fucking Cracker Barrel just so I can have income coming in. My husband works a federal government job, and has 12 weeks of paid parental leave. He promised he'd watch over our girl while I worked to save money on daycare. I've been at this waitressing job for a little over a week. It's tough, going from an office setting to being on my feet all day. I'm in a lot of pain, but having some job is better than no job, so I just deal. The quality of care that my husband has been giving our daughter is getting worse, and worse. I come home to her not being changed, not being fed, or her blowouts are so bad she has shit up her back. I've tried talking nicely, I've tried being reasonable, I even suspected he had male postpartum depression or some shit, and he told me he just couldn't connect with her and all she does is cry and it's grating on his nerves. Today was the worst one yet. I came home to my daughter still in her crib, still in the pajamas she was in the night before. After I laid out clothes for her, she was red in the face from crying so much. I started to warm up a bottle and asked my husband when did he last feed her. His answer was I haven't given her a bottle today. She cries every time I try to hold her. I just lost my shit on him. All hell flew through me and I couldn't contain my anger. I called him a piece of shit, neglectful father, and asked why the fuck did he knock me up/refuse/ make me feel bad for using condoms if he wasn't going to take care of the child he helped create. I'm working 8-hour waitressing shifts, making $3 an hour plus tips, still bleeding, feet constantly hurt, trying to dry up this breast milk, all while putting on a fake ass smile and trying my damnedest to make money and tips to have enough to bring home and pay my share of the bills every 2 weeks. I ended up locking baby and myself in the bedroom and told him to just fuck off and leave us alone. Managed to calm my daughter down with a bottle, a bath, and now she's napping, but I'm still so fucking angry. My husband told his mom I guess and tattled on me. My mill decided to message me and give me a hard time because he doesn't know what he's doing. This is his first time being a parent, and yeah, I pushed a 7-pound watermelon out of my vag and I'm still not neglecting my baby. I'm so angry and tired of this. Our daughter deserves better. Hell, I deserve better. I sent him a text that he either needs to shape up or ship the fuck out, and his response was, "Where are you going to go?" And now I'm just beyond angry and frustrated with him and his level of care for the child he helped make. I'm even more angry that he ran to his mom, who can say something shitty to me but can he come over and help her son if he's feeling overwhelmed? My head is spinning and I just need someone to set me straight. I keep wavering back and forth on if I am the asshole or not over this. I just want my daughter to have a competent father and not a neglectful one. If I could up and leave him to make him face reality, I would, just to show him I'm not fucking around. Edit, for you guys saying leave now. I have $6 to my name. If I could leave, I would. I'm going to social services on Monday. The domestic violence hotline was able to connect me to one shelter and they're trying to find placement for us for the weekend. Stop messaging me that I should have aborted my baby or given her up for adoption. If I had known my husband would be so fucking awful at taking care of her, I would have never had her at all. Can't exactly turn back that clock. Some of you guys need a lesson in empathy. I do not want this to continue. Edit 2. Shelter won't have space for us until Monday. Literally asking old coworkers and the 3 friends I have left if they can loan me money to get a hotel room for the weekend. I have a to-do list for Monday, with social services and calling lawyers and seeing whatever the hell else can be done next week. This sucks. I feel horrible for my daughter and keep going from crying to being angry and full of rage again. My daughter deserves better and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure this never happens again to either of us. Thank God I have an IUD and he can't knock me up again. I feel both hopeless and just wanting to escape again. Here's hoping I have some success and can update y'all on Monday over everything. Edit 3, to clarify, I am not having sex with my husband. I got the IUD to have more permanent birth control since he was pressuring me to have sex before I was ready / even before the 6-week mark. I do not want to end up with another kid / Irish twins because of his refusal to wear condoms. I am going to call lawyers on Monday to talk about divorce. I don't want to be with him any longer and I want better for myself and my daughter. People are asking if I have GoFundMe. I don't, but I have Cash App and Zelle. I didn't expect this post to blow up with over 500 messages in my inbox, but you guys, I'm trying. I am doing my best to get away from him and keep him out of our lives for good. Oop, I don't even think it's depression. He just doesn't fucking care and thinks he is getting 12 weeks of paid leave to fuck around and fuck off. I have $6 to my name, I have to rebuild my savings somehow to get the hell away from him. I don't have family I can trust, unless I want my newborn to end up drinking Mountain Dew at 12 weeks old and being neglected/abused like I was a kid. I have scars from my mom putting cigarettes out on me to teach me a lesson, but I'm going to see if this qualifies us for a women's shelter or something. Neglecting an infant isn't okay at all and I've had as much as I can take neglect. He starved the baby. She may have brain damage from dehydration. Take her to the ER for 4 fluids and to document the abuse. Update 1. I ended up taking baby girl to the hospital last night. After my soon-to-be ex-husband left to go drink or do whatever, I waited until he was gone, and packed a small bag with all of our important information and went to the emergency room since my daughter's pediatrician is closed until Monday. She was looked over and they kept her overnight for observation after I told them everything. She had a rash, they tested for a UTI, and I expressed my concerns over her having shaken baby syndrome, which wasn't something that even crossed my mind until a lot of people mentioned it in my first comments. The emergency room doctor said she was alert and bright, and very unhappy with the 4th. She cried so hard when they stuck her with the needle, so they wanted to observe her first before putting her through a CT scan. She was dehydrated so she had to have 4 put in. I think I got maybe 4 hours of sleep throughout the whole ordeal. She is such a happy, smiley, drooly little baby and my fucking heart breaks for what she had to deal with at the hands of her father. I will have to have a CPS case opened against me and her father for his neglect. I'm going to cooperate with them so it helps me gain as much physical and legal custody over her. I don't feel confident that when we divorce and he is granted some type of custody, this won't happen again. Since I called out of both of my weekend shifts and Monday shift to go to social services, best believe I am applying for everything. SNAP, WIC, TANF, medical insurance, etc. I don't think I will have a job at Cracker Barrel much longer, but I literally took that job just to have a job. A couple people messaged me with remote jobs that I might be able to get with my degree. Once we're settled in the shelter, I'm also hoping they will be able to help me find a decent job, hire an attorney that won't cost $5,000 for me to divorce my husband and help me set up child support payments. He can fuck all the way off into the sunset for all I care, but I didn't knock myself up by myself. So many of you were kind, offering me places to crash and support. I am so thankful and cried a lot. A lot of you have been in my situation and gave me words of hope when I was feeling really down and dumb over my choices. I have a hotel room for the next 2 nights thanks to awesome people in this sub. We are going to the shelter on Monday where we can start rebuilding pieces of our lives, and honestly, I wouldn't shed a tear if my soon-to-be ex decides to just give up his parental rights. I've practically been a single parent for the past 9 weeks, what's another 18 years of doing it by myself? I literally left with the clothes on my back and a bag for us both to share, so the thought of just starting from scratch is terrifying, but I know it's what I have to do. I know a lot of people will read about us and our safety, but we are safe. We are okay, for the most part. I still go back and forth from sadness to rage to feeling down and being angry at my 17-year-old self for thinking an older man would take care of me, and it turned out to be a bunch of lies. I have blocked my mill and soon-to-be ex, and I'm genuinely thinking of changing my phone number to cut off all communication with them both unless I'm ordered to by a court or something. I just want to wash my hands clean of him and pretend he doesn't exist. I can never trust him, or his mom really, again with my daughter. As someone who didn't grow up with a father and it made my mom hate me because I looked like him, I have a very clear memory of her throwing a pot of water at me because I made a face that looked like my dad's. Part of me hurts for my daughter because I sure picked a shitty sperm donor for her, but she deserves so much better than him. Update 2. To make a very long story short, I ended up taking her to the emergency room where I found out she has a rash. She was dehydrated and had to have 4 put in. He couldn't connect with her and said her crying was grating on his nerves and pushed me to go back to work so we could save on daycare. A CPS case will be opened against us both because the emergency room doctor is a mandated reporter. I'm terrified of her being taken away from me because I thought I could trust him to watch the child he helped create. He tried to pressure me into having sex before my 6-week checkup / before I was ready. He got mad when I had an IUD placed at my 6-week appointment because I wanted something more permanent for birth control because of his refusal to wear condoms. I'm terrified of the consequences of his actions, even though I'm the one who left. I'm the one going to a women's shelter on Monday. I'm going to ask about legal aid to get the divorce process rolling. I'm terrified of him ending up with some sort of physical custody and he neglects her on his time. I called out of my weekend shifts and my shift on Monday, and I'm pretty sure I won't have a job to go back to, but I don't care. My daughter is more important. She is such a smiley, happy, drooly little girl with big blue eyes and the cutest little dot nose, and I'm so angry and frustrated and sad for her that her father turned out to be this way. I'm terrified that I won't be able to divorce him and be free of him. I'm scared to start from scratch. I left with the clothes on my back and our important paperwork and more stuff for baby girl than myself. I haven't showered in over 24 hours and I think I slept maybe 4 hours last night. I keep looking at my sweet baby. The anxiety in the pit of my stomach is killing me. We are going to the shelter on Monday where we can start rebuilding pieces of our lives, and honestly, I wouldn't shed a tear if my soon-to-be ex decides to just give up his parental rights. I've practically been a single parent for the past 9 weeks, what's another 18 years of doing it by myself? I literally left with the clothes on my back and a bag for us both to share, so the thought of just starting from scratch is terrifying, but I know it's what I have to do. His own mother tried to defend him, saying he didn't know any better and it was his first time being a parent, but I'm not the one who left my newborn in a shitty, piss-soaked diaper and let her be filthy and hungry and cry until she was red in the face from needing someone. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself for what she had to go through because I was pressured into going back to work to pay my share of the bills at the adamance of her father. I just want to wash my hands clean of him and pretend he doesn't exist. I can never trust him, or his mom really, again with my daughter. As someone who didn't grow up with a father and it made my mom hate me because I looked like him, I have a very clear memory of her throwing a pot of water at me because I made a face that looked like my dad's. Part of me hurts for my daughter because I sure picked a shitty sperm donor for her, but she deserves so much better than him. As someone in a similar situation, and I wish while I was with my ex had gotten CPS involved. 2 years later we did have an investigation, but at this point I can only say what I saw 2 years ago. Now on to second story. Refused to pretend at my brother's wedding, exposing his fiancée's control issues, leaving the family wondering if I'm causing the real rift. I, 31F, have 3 siblings and we have a good relationship despite the age gaps between some of us. My older siblings are both married and so am I. The wedding in question is my younger brother's. My younger brother Luke is engaged to his GF of a year, Emma, 28F. She is nice I guess, but we have never really clicked and are just polite to each other. Something important is that we are all Catholic, but not really hardcore ones, and some of us are even lapsed. I do believe this whole situation started just when I met her for the first time. I look younger than Luke and it has always been a sibling joke that I am truly the baby of the family. Most people that meet us assume he is older than me, but nobody has had issues with it until Emma. The day I met her she kind of scoffed when I said I was happy the baby had a proper girlfriend. She has this weird thing about being the eldest in her family and refused to believe I was older than her until I showed her my ID. She has been hot and cold with me since then, often infantilizing me or trying to have a sort of boss attitude. I just let her be and usually ignore her since I have no time to try and beg for her friendship, so I am just polite and civil, always include her when planning stuff but don't really make an effort. The family knows about it, but we just shrugged it to different personalities. Then the wedding planning started. Emma decided I could not be in the wedding party since I was not read in a church, fine by me. Then she requested that immediate family submits their dress planning so she could check it fits the wedding dress code, fine whatever. You see where this is going, I hope? You'll see I have not gone to confession or have communion in more than a decade. If I go to a mass for whatever reason I am respectful and simply sit or stay standing during the rites I don't participate on. Well, this is not good enough for her and she says I need to take communion during their wedding. I said no and she has not taken it well. For the most part I avoid her as I said before, but this time I wasn't gonna say yes or risk an issue. I told her for taking communion one needs to go to confession and I didn't want to. She said all immediate family is doing it and it will look bad if I don't. I told her sure fine, then I'll just go have communion in front of everybody but won't do confession. She said if this was gonna be my attitude I was uninvited from the wedding because I clearly wanted to ruin the day for her. I turned to my brother and told him, thanks, gave him a thumbs up and went home. My family understand my reasoning and said they respect everybody's choices, but I shouldn't have said what I said. I told them I really don't want to go to the wedding anymore and I don't owe Emma explanations on my life. I only called my grandma because she heard what happened and asked me not to disrespect the church by doing the communion without confession. I promised I wouldn't do it and she is fine with me now. I got a text from my brother wanting to compromise, so I replied by asking if the other lapsed people are being made to take confession too? He said no because it was only nuclear family members. I find it funny since all the others are clearly older than her and she just behaves like this with me and the youngsters. Ada? Oop, lol, I will share this particular one with my grandma next time we talk. She is gonna love it. Oop, I actually considered it boo. I don't think I will since my grandma might be doing it herself. She has lapsed herself but didn't want me to be disrespectful, but she knows the priest that will be officiating and is not really happy with all the shit show. Update 1. Things have moved but I wouldn't call any of this a positive progress. I would like to clear something I kept seeing in the comments. I won't request a special blessing or go in the queue for communion. It isn't about the blessing or the compromise but the singling me out. I often just stay quiet or take a general family blessing if we go to weddings, etc. I have no issue with compromises. I have an issue with Emma and her ridiculousness. I don't know why she has this thing with me. I do look young but not like a teen or a child obviously. She has 2 younger sisters and is very authoritative with them. I have witnesses her being very my way or the highway with younger people, so she has issues for sure. The confrontation from the last post was on Tuesday and today we had lunch at my grandma's. I think you should also know that my brothers have a tricky relationship, as in they are not as close with each other as they are with other siblings. My older brother Robert is very no nonsense and he has never been a fan of Emma, but he didn't think he should have to intervene because Luke is an adult and capable of navigating relationships. All this is gonna be relevant, I promise. We visit grandma a lot since she lives by herself and we truly enjoy her company. Today we were all there because she is over this drama already. After a lunch, that was more like snacking to be honest, she asked us all to clear the air. Emma continued with her rant about me being a disrespectful person and that she was asking the bare minimum from me. My grandma asked her why she had no issue with her not taking communion, and Emma said that she was her elder and for sure her reasons were more than a tantrum like it was in my case. She also repeated that she was skiing this of all the siblings and I was the only one that was being difficult with her tiny request. This is where everything crumbled for her. I mentioned in the comments that Robert is also lapsed and he was already exhausted by this situation. He asked her why she had no issues with him not taking communion and she looked like a kid that was caught. She didn't have a proper answer. Robert then asked her if she even knew why he and grandma became lapsed. She shook her head and looked at Luke for help. Luke on the other hand was staring angrily at Robert and I but said nothing. Robert explained to Emma he was the reason grandma became lapsed. When Robert was a teen he came out as gay and was so worried about our grandparents' reaction since they were very active in the Catholic Church. Grandma felt awful about it and even worse when she went and spoke about this with the then priest of her church. That priest was super old school and told her that Robert was committing sins, he was going to hell, he needed to find his way, the whole 9 yards. Grandma didn't take that so well and simply stopped going to church and started spending that time with her grandchildren. Over the years she started getting into the whole community again, but she decided she was done taking the sacraments. She respects parts of the church but can't fully reconcile with it. Emma was a bit confused since Robert is married to a woman and he explained he is bisexual and ended up with a woman just as he could have ended with a man. He also commented they are not married in the church but that didn't matter to her like it mattered when it came to me. He asked her directly what was her problem with me. Long story short, she said I was rude since the beginning and kept treating Luke wrong. Oh, and I also was very snarky about looking younger than her. Crickets. She is a beautiful successful woman so I still don't understand her obsession but it seems like she wants people to see I respect her and wh. She says. I just started laughing, she started crying and saying I turned my grandma against her. My grandma told her to stop blaming people for her being a negative person and she was always going to side with me over her. Luke got upset at that and asked her why she was not supporting him and she simply said she doesn't support him being a lapdog for a crazy woman. More was said, nothing got truly resolved. I was kind of invited again but declined going. Grandma is undecided if she even wants to go at all. My older siblings told Luke they will go to the ceremony if he seeks couples therapy or at least therapy. My parents are having headaches and now dislike Emma so much they can't hide it. Oh. And yes, Grandma spoke with the priest and he wants them to do extra premarital counseling or he won't officiate. I hope they don't get married but he is old enough to derail his life if he wants. I thank you for letting me vent and my grandma loved the Pope joke. Update 2. My brother has gone too far and I decided to be done with him. He made our grandma cry and I think permanently damaged a lot of his relationships. I want to mention some of my cousins and other family members thought I was just stubborn and creating drama but now there is no longer my side or Emma's side. Maybe he always felt this way but the issue he has with Robert is absolutely ridiculous. He was so upset with what Grandma said about him being Emma's lapdog that he called her to speak about it. I was obviously not present for the conversation but Grandma told me what happened and Luke confirmed it. He told her that it was unfair of me to ask Robert for help since he was her favorite grandchild and would get her to side with me no matter how wrong I was. He also told her that many of the cousins believe this and that it was so obvious since she even left her religion for him. He claimed the other LGBTQ+ members of the family, most were not even born when Robert came out by the way, doubted if he would do it for them. So Grandma explained to Luke and then call every single one of her grandchildren to ask them how they felt and explain to each a part we didn't know. She said that when Robert came out and she spoke with the old priest he hinted about knowing of places to set Robert straight. Grandma had heard horror stories from these places and so had Robert and they both spoke with my parents together about that not being an option at all. My parents never intended to send Robert there and are very casual Catholics, but Grandma wanted to cover the basis just in case. I was told Grandma sounded like she had been crying on the phone and after the first couple of calls, which went from oldest to youngest the group chat started to blow. Robert is livid, our LGBTQ+ cousins are livid and say Luke lied, even the cousins that were telling me to stop being a stubborn head are livid. By the time I was up for my call I was already on the way to Grandma's. 2 of my cousins were already there and the youngest one, Sarah, 16F, was ready to literally fight Luke. For a bit of levity, Sarah is about 35 centimeters smaller than Luke and the image of her swinging at him made me laugh a bit. She asked if I was making fun of her and I just explained the whole mental image of her trying to hit him and she admitted it was kind of funny. What I didn't tell her is I would love to slap some sense into Luke. My grandma has been through so much in her life and this is not what we want for her. She looks puffy-faced and kept asking everybody if they truly felt unloved by her, saying she would do everything for any of us. Explaining how Robert was the oldest grandchild but that didn't mean she loved the rest any less. She is a strong woman, but I think something inside her broke a little with the thought she hurt her grandchildren. It was a shit show, a big one and I was just so done with Luke. My parents have been passive towards the situation so far because I asked them to, but after they heard what happened they told him they need time away from him. Robert is simply disgusted and decided to not speak with him anymore, which he communicated through the cousin group chat with Luke's response being that this is why Emma's help on reigning all us would be so beneficial if we just let her. He also added how Robert never cared for him or anybody really and he just tried to be the center of attention all the time. He cited his coming out, his announcement he was going to marry a woman, the birth of his child, it was ridiculous. He came out when Luke was a toddler and for many years only our parents and grandparents knew. He announced he was going to marry his now wife through a text but didn't interfere or took from anybody. His child was born 4 months before Luke's graduation and apparently that was a big issue for Luke that he never commented. Maybe I am biased, maybe I am selfish like Emma claims, but I call bullshit on his tantrum. Every single one of the cousins has been helped, babysat, tutored, gotten out of trouble, you name it by Robert. He isn't perfect but he isn't the conniving ass Luke is claiming. Maybe Luke has always felt inadequate and we didn't notice, maybe it was his last-ditch effort, maybe Emma has manipulated him so far that he can't come back. It doesn't matter anymore. If he does marry Emma I wish him the best, if he doesn't I hope he goes to therapy. Regardless of what he decides, he burned so many bridges and hurt so many people, I don't see this resolving anytime soon. For now I will focus on my grandma and making her feel better. I feel extremely guilty because it was Emma's situation with me that opened this can of worms. I know I shouldn't but it's hard not to. Oop, Robert is the type of older cousin Sarah would call if she is drunk at a party and needs a safe ride. He also did it for Luke, which is why I don't get his deal. Oop, if he asked for help and apologized sincerely, I would be there in 2 seconds. He knew what he was doing. When he spoke without grandma, he knew it would cause her pain, he knew he would hurt Robert too. Robert might not be crying but he feels bad about the situation. He has always looked out for everybody and even has pics of him holding every single one of us as babies all over one of his walls. I always knew they were not the closest of brothers but this is too much. Oop, so far, nobody is going to his wedding. My parents are undecided about attending the ceremony but they lean more on not attending.